In 1833, Charles Darwin stood on the plains of South America and witnessed something he had never seen before: an entire landscape swallowed. Miles of land covered by a single plant so dense, so aggressive, that neither man nor horse could pass through it. He described it as a living fortress, an invasion on a scale unlike anything recorded at the time. But here's the strange part: this wasn't some unknown species. It wasn't dangerous. It wasn't toxic. It wasn't even new. It was food, not just any food, one of the most prized vegetables in the ancient world. If you had walked into a Roman banquet, this plant wouldn't be growing outside. It would be sitting on your plate, served to the wealthy, valued above common crops, considered a sign of status and refinement. Even in early America, it held that reputation. Thomas Jefferson grew it personally, dedicating space in his garden to ensure he had access to it year-round. And today, it's sprayed, poisoned, eradicated, labeled a problem. So what changed? How does a plant go from elite tables to roadside weed? The answer isn't about taste, it's not about nutrition, it's about something much simpler: convenience. For most people today, if you want a crisp, green vegetable, you reach for celery. It's everywhere, uniform, easy to transport, mild in flavor, predictable. But nutritionally, it's mostly water. Celery fills space on a plate, but it doesn't do much beyond that. Now compare that to this forgotten plant. At first glance, they look similar: thick stalks, ribbed structure, leafy tops, but that's where the similarity ends. Because this plant wasn't built for convenience, it was built for strength. Where celery offers small amounts of minerals, this plant concentrates them. Magnesium, a mineral nearly half the population doesn't get enough of, appears in significantly higher amounts. Potassium levels rival foods like bananas, helping regulate hydration, nerve function, and heart health. But the real difference goes deeper. This plant isn't just food, it's functional. Compounds within its leaves actively support liver function, helping the body process fats and remove waste more efficiently. It doesn't just feed you, it helps regulate you, which raises the question again: if it's better, why did we replace it? To understand that, you have to look at how it grows, because this plant has a problem, not for nature, for people. It's difficult. Before it's ready to eat, it has to be prepared in a very specific way. Weeks before harvest, the plant needs to be wrapped, covered from sunlight so it loses its bitterness. This process, called blanching, transforms it from tough and sharp into something tender and flavorful. But it takes time, it takes effort, it takes hands. And that's where the problem begins, because modern agriculture isn't built for time, it's built for speed. Machines can harvest celery instantly. They can package it, ship it, sell it, but they can't carefully wrap thousands of plants by hand. And so the decision was made, not based on nutrition, not based on resilience, but on efficiency. Over time, that decision reshaped entire landscapes. Fields once filled with diversity became rows of identical crops: uniform, controlled, predictable, and anything that didn't fit that system was removed. This plant didn't disappear because it was weak. It disappeared because it was too strong. It didn't need irrigation once established. It tolerated poor soil. It resisted drought. It came back year after year. In other words, it didn't rely on us. And in a system built around control, that's a problem. Because a plant that grows without permission is labeled invasive. A plant that spreads without being planted is labeled a threat. And so, across parts of the United States, it was officially classified as a noxious weed. Not because it lacked value, but because it didn't fit the model. And once something is labeled a weed, the response is immediate: spraying, eradication, removal at scale. Entire hillsides cleared, roadsides treated, fields protected from its return. But here's the contradiction: at the same time, it's being destroyed. It's also being rediscovered. Small farms, permaculture systems, backyard growers, they're bringing it back because they're not optimizing for machines. They're optimizing for resilience, for nutrition, for independence. They're asking a different question: not how fast can this grow, but how little does this need? And that's where this story shifts because this plant was never the problem. The system was. We didn't replace it because it failed. We replaced it because something easier came along, something faster, something simpler, but not something better. And now, in a world where soil is degrading, where water is becoming less predictable, where people are starting to question what they're eating, plants like this are returning, not as relics, but as solutions.